Hey, bookworms, welcome back to Bookcast. So, let's be honest. How many of you hit that snooze button maybe a few too many times this morning, scrambled to get ready, forgot breakfast, and just felt like you were, I don't know, behind before the day even started?
Yeah, me too. Life, it's like a race against the clock, right? But what if I told you there's a simple solution, like hiding in plain sight, a way to regain control and set yourself up for success? And all of that in the next 10 minutes. Stick around, because today we are diving into Admiral William H. McRaven's Make Your Bed to uncover 10 life lessons that could, totally change everything.
It's amazing how a simple act can have such a big impact. McRaven, he's a retired Navy SEAL admiral. He doesn't just want you to have a tidy room. He uses making your bed as a metaphor for taking charge of your day, even when things are chaotic. Right. It's like that feeling when you check off a small task on your to-do list. Makes the rest of the day seem a little more manageable. So McRaven's first lesson is start each day with an accomplishment. Honestly, I was a little skeptical at first. I mean, how much of a difference can making your bed really make?
Well, think about McRaven's experience in SEAL training. His commanding officer, he was really strict about a perfectly made bed. He even used this thing called the quarter bounce test to make sure the sheets were tight enough to bounce a coin off of them.
Okay, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
But why so much emphasis on a made bed?
It wasn't just about, neatness. It was about discipline and a sense of order in a crazy, demanding environment. That made bed, it became a symbol of control and normalcy, a reminder that even in tough situations, they could still control something.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. It would be incredibly grounding in high-pressure situations. Later on, McRaven had this serious parachuting accident.
Yeah.
And he was bedridden for months. And he talks about how one of the first things he did as he started to recover was make his bed.
That simple act, right? Something he'd done so many times before, it took on a whole new meaning. It wasn't just about being tidy anymore. It was almost like defying his circumstances, a way to, reclaim a sense of control when he felt powerless.
So it's not just about a made bed. It's about taking control, even in small ways, and using that to tackle bigger challenges. That really ties back to that feeling of being overwhelmed we were talking about before. Now, I'm curious, what are some small wins you guys can build into your routine to create that sense of accomplishment and set yourself up for a productive day? Think about it while we move on to McRaven's second lesson. Success in life requires teamwork.
No one achieves great things alone. McRaven learned that firsthand during SEAL training. He talks about this huge 10-foot rubber raft they had to carry everywhere, him and his fellow trainees. It was heavy, awkward, a constant reminder they needed each other to succeed.
Oh, I can imagine them struggling with this giant raft. Talk about a team-building exercise.
Exactly. It forced them to work together, rely on each other's strengths, and literally share the weight. This lesson became even more important after that parachuting accident we talked about.
Right. He mentions how his wife's support was like his lifeline during those months.
Yeah.
And how his boss really fought for him to return to the SEALs despite his injuries.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that we're not meant to go through life alone. We need support systems, people we can rely on. And, we need to be there for others, too. This is where McRaven's message, it goes beyond individual discipline and starts to touch on, community and connection. And remember, we're talking about creating a life where you feel less overwhelmed and more in control. Having a strong support system can be huge.
Totally. Just knowing you have people in your corner can make tough days easier. So think about the people in your life who lift you up and how you can be that support for someone else. It's a win-win, right? Now let's move on to lesson 3. It's what's inside that counts. I think we all know that judging people by appearances is, a bad idea. But McRaven shares some stories that really drive the point home.
He describes the small, kind of scrawny SEAL trainee. Everyone underestimated him. During a really hard swim, the inspecting officer even asked if he wanted to quit before they started.
Ouch, that's gotta hurt. Did he give up?
No, not at all. He just, took the ribbing and then outswam almost everyone, proving that looks don't always reflect inner strength.
That's what I'm talking about. Talk about proving the doubters wrong. And remember, we're trying to break free from that feeling of being overwhelmed. Part of that is recognizing your own inner strength and not letting self-doubt hold you back.
Exactly. McRaven also talks about this guy who showed up looking like he belonged at, Woodstock, not SEAL training, McRaven admits he totally judged the guy based on his appearance, assumed he was in the wrong place.
I can just picture it, this long-haired, tie-dye guy with all these tough SEAL trainees.
Yeah, but here's the thing. This hippie turned out to be a war hero and a member of the FBI hostage rescue team.
Get out. No way. It just goes to show, don't judge a book by its cover.
right? Exactly.
It's a reminder to look beyond appearances and see the potential in everyone, including ourselves. Sometimes we're our own worst critics, you know? This lesson is about recognizing that inner strength. All right, ready for lesson 4. This one really hit me hard.
Let's do it. Lesson 4 is a setback is only permanent if you let it be. Life, it's not always fair. We're going to face challenges and setbacks. It's how we respond that matters.
Right, and McRaven uses this powerful analogy. He talks about being punished during SEAL training. They made him roll around in the sand until he was completely covered. He called it being a sugar cookie.
It's a vivid image. It shows how sometimes life throws us curveballs, and we can't do anything about it. We're all going to be sugar cookies sometimes.
So what's the takeaway? How do we deal with those sugar cookie moments?
Well, McRaven tells this story about one of his instructors. Lieutenant Moki, tough guy, embodied resilience. Later in life, Moki had a terrible bicycling accident. He was paralyzed.
Oh, wow. That's awful.
But instead of giving up, Moki refused to let this define him. He became a painter, started a family, even organized a triathlon for SEALs.
That's incredible. Talk about refusing to be defeated.
Exactly. And this goes back to that feeling of being overwhelmed. When we face setbacks, it's easy to get stuck in self-doubt. But Moki's story reminds us that we always have a choice. We can either, wallow in self-pity, or we can find a way forward, build something new out of the ashes.
So next time you're feeling like a sugar cookie, remember Moki, it's not about what happens to you. It's about how you choose to move forward. It's about finding that inner strength. Okay, ready to dive into the rest of these lessons?
Absolutely. McRaven has 6 more for us, and they kind of build on this idea of resilience and taking control. So let's jump into lesson 5. Use failure to your advantage.
Okay, I have to admit, this one really spoke to me. I mean, we've all failed, right? McRaven kind of changes how we think about it. He talks about this crazy training exercise they call the circus. Basically, 2 hours of intense workout at the end of the day, and it was for anyone who messed up during training.
Yeah, it was meant to push them to their absolute limit, physically and mentally, and it definitely weeded out the people who couldn't handle it.
Sounds brutal. And McRaven actually says he and his swim buddy kept ending up in the circus after failing this 2-mile timed swim.
Wow, think about that. Imagine going through that every day, feeling like you're always falling short. You'd get discouraged, you'd want to give up, right?
Totally, yeah. You'd start to feel like, I don't know, like you're just not good enough. But here's the interesting part. Instead of letting those failures define them, McRaven and his buddy, they used those extra workouts to get better.
Yeah, they pushed themselves harder, built up their strength, and guess what? They ended up finishing first in the final 5-mile swim.
Talk about turning a negative into a positive. It's like, what's that saying? Fall 7 times, stand up 8.
Yeah.
This lesson is so powerful, I think, because it reminds us that failure isn't the end. It's a chance to learn, to grow, and come back stronger.
And think about how this applies to, that feeling of being overwhelmed. When we face a setback, it's easy to get caught up in self-doubt. But what if we could, reframe those failures as opportunities?
It's like shifting your thinking from I can't do this to I can learn from this.
Yeah.
Okay, lesson 6 is be daring in life. I love this one because it's about pushing your boundaries and taking risks. McRaven tells a story about overcoming his fear on the SEAL obstacle course. This one terrifying obstacle, they called it the slide for life. 100-foot rope suspended 30 feet in the air, and you had to slide down head first.
That would make anyone think twice, for sure. But McRaven realized that playing it safe, sliding down feet first, was actually making him slower.
So he decided to just face his fear.
Exactly. He took the risk, slid down head first, and ended up beating his best time. And he compares this to a decision he made later as a commander. He ordered this risky daylight Black Hawk rescue mission to save hostages in Iraq.
Wow, talk about high stakes. But he trusted his gut, took the risk, and it worked.
It shows how taking calculated risks can lead to amazing results. And this connects back to feeling overwhelmed too. Sometimes we get so stuck in our routine that we don't take risks, even when they could lead to something better.
It's like we're so scared of failing that we don't even try. But McRaven's story reminds us that sometimes the biggest rewards come from taking that leap. Okay, lesson 7 is keep courage close. This one gets pretty intense. McRaven talks about nighttime swims with sharks circling nearby.
Can you imagine the courage to jump into that water, knowing there are sharks down there? But McRaven learned that fear can paralyze you, and that courage is a choice you make every day.
He also talks about facing Saddam Hussein after his capture. So wait, how does making your bed connect to, facing a dictator?
It's about staying calm and strong, even in really scary situations. By not showing Hussein fear, McRaven and his team basically took away his power. It was courage that helped bring down his regime.
Wow, that's amazing. It shows that courage can be so many different things. It's not just about being physically brave. It's about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard. And, when we feel overwhelmed, it's easy to let fear take over. But this reminds us that we can choose courage, face our fears, and take control.
Absolutely. That brings us to lesson 8. Stand tall in the midst of darkness. McRaven describes this final dive training mission during SEAL training. It was super foggy, so you couldn't see anything. It was disorienting and dangerous.
I can't imagine how stressful that would be, not being able to see underwater. But the instructors kept saying how important it was to stay calm and focused, to become warriors in the darkness.
Right, and this lesson stayed with him throughout his career, especially when he saw the resilience of soldiers who had lost friends in combat.
That's incredibly powerful. To keep fighting after going through something like that, it shows how strong people can be.
Yeah.
And when we're overwhelmed by life's challenges, it can feel like we're lost in a fog, right?
Yeah.
But this lesson reminds us to stay calm, focus on what we can control, and keep going, even when we can't see the way clearly. Okay, we're almost done here. What are the last 2 lessons?
Okay, lesson 9 is inspire others with hope. And it takes us back to Hell Week during SEAL training.
Oh, you can't just say Hell Week and not tell us what it is. What did they do to these guys?
Okay, so imagine 6 days of nonstop challenges.
Oh, wow.
Physical and mental, sleep deprivation, constant harassment from the instructors, and enough mud to make you wonder what you're doing with your life.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't last 5 minutes. Forget 6 days.
Yeah, a lot of them didn't. But this is where hope comes in. McRaven describes this one exercise in the Tijuana mudflats. They had to sit in freezing mud, chest deep, for hours.
I'm getting cold just thinking about it.
And right when everyone was ready to quit, one of the trainees started singing, and then another joined in, and another, until the whole group was singing, like defying the misery.
Oh, wow, that's powerful. Even in the worst moments, a little hope can make all the difference.
Exactly. And McRaven connects this to a story about Marine Lieutenant General John Kelly. He lost his son in the war.
Oh, wow.
And he describes Kelly comforting families at Dover Air Force Base after, the loss of 38 SEALs and soldiers, offering them hope and strength even when they're facing such a tragedy.
Those stories they're really inspiring, and they remind us that we can inspire others even when we're struggling ourselves. And when we feel overwhelmed, sometimes all we need is that little bit of hope to keep going.
Absolutely. And that leads us to the 10th and final lesson. No matter what, never give up.
McRaven talks about how on the first day of SEAL training, the commanding officer showed them this bell, and he told them they could ring it at any time to quit.
Oh, I bet that was tempting, especially during something like Hell Week. Totally. But the message was clear. You can always quit. But that's not how you achieve your goals.
Yeah, it's about pushing through the hard times and remembering why you started.
And to show this, McRaven tells a story about this young soldier who lost both his legs in combat. But even after that, he signed these words, "I will be okay."
That's incredible. He chose to stay positive even after going through so much.
A year later, McRaven saw that same soldier standing tall on prosthetic legs, back in uniform. He didn't let his injuries stop him. It's a reminder that we can overcome anything if we don't give up.
Wow, we went from making our beds to facing dictators and singing in mud pits. Who knew a book about tidying up could be so deep?
It's amazing, right? And it all comes back to taking control, even in small ways. It's about building those small wins into our routine, becoming more resilient, and never giving up on ourselves.
I feel inspired, ready to tackle my to-do list, face my fears, maybe even sing a little when things get tough.
That's what we like to hear.
So if you want some inspiration, some practical advice to help you face life's challenges with more courage and a whole lot of grit, check out Make Your Bed by Admiral William H. McRaven. It's a really great read.
I agree.
And hey, let us know in the comments which lesson you like the most and how you're going to use it in your life. We love hearing from you guys. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Bookcast for more deep dives into books that can change your perspective and inspire you to live your best life. Thanks for joining us.